Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on the old show today, the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT. Apparently this vehicle is not going to be like its forefathers were, being the SLS and the SLR. That kind of came out, there were some special editions, then a high-performance version. Then they faded off into the sunset. This particular machine is going to evolve over time, according to Mercedes. In fact, to the point where we're going to have a next generation GT, a generation after that, a generation after that, well, at least as long as this vehicle is economically viable to the folks over at Mercedes. So it's very interesting that they'll finally have a halo car that actually moves forward into the future. Next up on the list, when we talked about Tesla showing off that what we were calling the Model D at the time, apparently that's actually going to be called the Model S, but it's going to be the P85D edition. Now it comes with a bunch of cool new stuff, including a new battery arrangement and twin electric motors in this machine, which for the first time ever will make the Model S all-wheel drive. Not to mention it comes with a bunch of sub-autonomous technology. Now, it's not going to be full autonomous, meaning that you can't just punch in your destination and the vehicle will drive you there, but it's going to have a lot of driver aids that are going to help you pilot this machine down the road. So hopefully we'll hear a lot more about this coming soon. Next up, we talked about Ferrari bringing a special edition market in America for the 60 years of selling Ferraris in the United States, and this is it. This is the Ferrari F60 America edition. This vehicle built off the base, which is the F12 Berlinetta platform. Now, this vehicle comes with that same Berlinetta base, 6.3 liter normally aspirated V12, putting out 730 brake horsepower and 509 pounds-feet of torque. That'll propel this car for 0 to 60 numbers in just a touch over 3 seconds. Now, they haven't actually based a top speed on this machine because this is the first time the old F12 Berlinetta has come without a roof. Now, they are only going to build 10 of these machines, and all 10 of them are already sold for $2.5 million a piece. And I think it's probably pretty good that they've already sold these because I don't really feel that this car is very attractive. Sorry, Ferrari, but it's just not very good looking. But that being said, another special edition. Kind of neat to see a special edition just here in the Americas. Next up on the list, this next story is a somewhat of an epiphany in my part, because when I heard from several different outlets that Porsche, the next generation 911, could get its own hybrid variant, it finally dawned on me that this is the wave of the future. This is how cars are going to be in the future. Even though I've looked into Chevrolet Corvettes being a hybrid drivetrain maybe in the next generation, I don't know why it finally hit me with the Porsche. Never been the biggest Porsche 911 fan. The first time I ever drove a 911 was a Turbo Spider, and I was in my late teens, and it was a long, long time ago. Oddly enough, I've never been that big a fan, and I've always felt that these cars were kind of the Coca-Cola or the everyman's high-performance automobile. As far as that was concerned, you think of a lot of folks here in the United States, once they get to a certain age, they think they need to own a Corvette. I really felt that this was the same kind of car for the 911 for everywhere else around the world. Even here in the United States, once you get to that certain age, you've made a little bit of cash, it's time to buy a Porsche 911. Now that I've thoroughly offended all the Porsche fans, I will take a story that may bring some of you back. The first time I ever sat in a 911, at least a current generation 911, was several years ago at the Chicago Motor Show. And I sat in one and instantly felt at home. I could not believe... I've never sat in a car before or since where I instantly put my hands on the wheel and thought, holy smokes, this is where I need to be. It must have been written so much over my face that a handful of folks that were sitting outside watching me as I was getting into this car, one of them poked in and said, "Huh? You feel it, don't you? You're going to sell off your monster truck and buy you one of these, aren't you?" I don't know what I said to him because I was still just in awe of what I was sitting in. Very weird. Never had that particular situation ever before. And I still don't know why. It just really dawned on me that all cars are going to be hybrids probably going into the future. Last up on the list, well, license plate gate, whatever you want to call it, from the folks over at Top Gear when they were filming down in Argentina with this 928. that actually had this license plate on it that supposedly poked a little fun at the Falkland Islands War back in the early 80s, where Argentina tried to take over the Falkland Islands and wasn't successful in the situation. And this caused a huge brouhaha that ended up having the whole crew actually have to escape from the country, not to mention all the cars scooped up and traveled out of town when they were pelted with rocks and tore up the cars pretty something fierce. It's been a weird situation moving forward. The folks over at Top Gear probably going through a lot of damage control as James May, Richard Hammond, and Jeremy Clarkson going into print, on the internet, and on a radio campaign telling them that this wasn't their fault. Even to the point where the producer, Andy Williams, did an off-ed piece actually in TopGear.com and the Top Gear magazine. Clarkson actually came out and said that the actual situation was actually done by the government. The government claimed that that license plate was actually the culprit of why those folks got mad, to try to cover up why those folks went wild on them. But there was also some rumors now floating about that actual second license plate, to poke a little bit more fun at people, was in that particular machine. Now, Andy Williams came out in that off-ed piece and claimed that they have actually looked for this particular machine with this particular license plate to make this joke. What it meant, they would either have to go through what would equivalency of being the DMV, or the Department of Motor Vehicles in Europe, or do some illegal tactics to try to figure out who owned the car with this particular license plate to make this particular joke. I know that that seems like a stretch and maybe looks in a little bit their direction, that they may be innocent in this deal, but you know that these guys make fun of a lot of people. I'm not completely buying it. It's going to be very interesting showing up at that particular Christmas special to see how they spin this particular situation. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be a very entertaining episode, and hopefully we'll know a whole lot more by then, but it's very interesting how much these folks are trying to say that they had nothing to do with this. I'm still not 100% convinced of this situation, but we'll see moving forward. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. If you want to jump on over to the Facebook page, the link's down in the show notes. Also, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time and get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.